Prologue. A small passenger aircraft soared through the clear blue sky. Only one passenger sat abroad, a man wearing sunglasses and a black suit. Sweat poured down his pale face as his eyes anxiously darted around the empty aircraft. Hunched over like a child afraid of nighttime wind, he clenched a pistol in both hands as if it was his good luck charm. The man, a mafioso, had just escaped from a certain powerful organization by the skin of his teeth. Knock, knock. He heard a sudden knock, and then looked in the direction of the noise to find where it was coming from. Outside the window. There was a boy outside. He was around 14 or 15 years old, and had a smile on his face. Unfathomable. They were over 1,500 feet in the air, on a plane mid-flight. "Yo, hope you don't mind if I join ya," said the boy, although all the man could see his lips forming the words, It's the king of the sheep!" The mafioso shrieked. He jumped back as the boy kicked the window in, shattering it in the process. A powerful vortex rushed through the aircraft, and then the difference in the atmosphere pressure sucked in all the air, causing the plane to violently shake. But the mafioso paid no mind to the rush of the wind nor the shaking. He clawed on the floor, doing whatever he could to escape the intruder. The boy stepped on his back, pinned him down. "You're part of the Port Mafia's weapon transport, and this scares you?" The boy scoffed, a note of amusement in his voice. His dark green leather biker jacket complemented his reddish-brown mane. He proceeded to rip a nearby chair out of the floor with his bare hands and threw it at the broken window. The chair acted like a lid, stopping the violent wind from rushing inside of the aircraft. Please forgive me," the mafioso begged, and squirmed under the boy's foot. "I'm sorry I messed with the sheep's turf. I didn't have a choice." "Yeah, I bet you didn't. No way the Port Mafia bastards knew what they had coming. You hit us, we sheep hit back. And then some. But don't sweat it. I already killed the other guys involved in your little ambush. Rest assured, I'll be giving you the same send-off as your friends." The mafioso reached for his gun that he had dropped, but he couldn't reach it. In fact, he wasn't able to lift his finger. His face twisted, bones cracking, and his body pushed to the floor. All he could manage was a moan, and yet the boy only had a single foot on his back. The boy was using gravity to make his foot exceedingly heavy. "Impressive. I guess that's the Port Mafia for ya," the boy observed. "Even with all the gravity crushing, you're still thinking of ways to fight back. Okay then, try your luck. But first, answer me this. Why did you attack our turf?" I didn't want to attack it." It sounded as if every last breath was being squeezed out of the mafioso's lungs. "I didn't have a choice. Our arsenal was destroyed by the commerce god, by Arahabaki. The Black Flames have returned from the pits of hell." Arahabaki, the voice vanished. The gravity weakened a bit for a second. This was an opportunity, and the mafioso seized that moment to roll away, grab his gun, and aim it at the boy. He was clearly very experienced with firearms. The boy simply kept his hands in his pockets and fixated on the mafioso with an icy glare. "Go ahead. Shoot me. See what happens. Die. Die, king of the sheep. Chuuya Nagahara!" He pulled the trigger. Hands still in his pocket, the boy unflinchingly spun to one side and kicked out the bullet. The moment it collided with his foot, the bullet recoiled, piercing the mafioso's throat. Blood squirted out of the neck as he collapsed backwards. The boy swung back and announced, "I'm gonna kill every member of the Port Mafia." Phase 1. This man was troubled, simply at a loss. He was in the middle of a stare-down with several documents, a cigarette in his mouth. He stood from his chair and stretched, stared back on the numbers on the wall, rubbed his brow, and sat back down and groaned like a bull about to drop his last breath. He faced the documents once more, only for the meaningless shapes on the pages to vanish. This is hopeless. His black hair half-heartedly combed back. The man was dressed in a white lab coat with worn-down sandals and a stethoscope around his neck. Dark bags hung under his eyes. He was clearly a doctor. One in a dingy clinic that was a mess, to say the least, scattered around with stethoscopes, medical records, and a bookshelf full of academic texts. On the wall in front of his desk was an X-ray film viewer, very much a picture of a doctor in a hospital office, and yet this man wasn't actually a doctor, and this wasn't a hospital. In fact, it was the complete opposite. Our weapon smugglers are 2 weeks behind schedule. My men are going to be fighting with kitchen knives at this rate. And it doesn't stop there. We're already had 3 violent incidents this month where the city police had to get involved. I'm losing control over the low-level guns, the man complained as he eyed the documents. His name was Oka Mori, leader of a powerful underground organization known as the Port Mafia. Having acquired the position only a year earlier, he was still relatively new to the whole leadership thing. We're losing contracts for our protection business. Conflict with other organizations is escalating. Our turf is getting smaller by the day, Mori went on. This isn't good. It's been one problem after another ever since I took over being leader. I never expected leadership to be so difficult. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. What do you think, Dazai? Are you even listening to me? Maybe, maybe not. So, which is it? The one to answer Oka was a lanky boy seated on a nearby stool. He wore an oversized black overcoat, and a white bandage wrapped over his forehead was peeking out from underneath his messy, dark hair. His name was Osamu Dazai, age 15. Come on, Mori. Everything that comes out of your mouth is always so boring, Dazai complained as he fiddled with the medicine ball. Starting to sound like you're chanting a mantra. We don't have enough money. We don't have enough intel. My men don't trust me. You knew from the start things would turn out this way. Well, maybe you're right. Mori scratched his head in vacillation. Then suddenly said, by the way, Dazai, why are you mixing hypertension medicine with hypertension medicine? Huh? Because I thought something cool would happen, and I'll be able to die in peace. That isn't gonna kill you. Mori seized the bottle. How do you even open the medical cabinet? It's locked. Give it back. I want to die. Dazai filled his arms. Life is so boring. I'd much rather die. But I want it to be quick and painless. Help me out, Mori. I'll teach you how to properly mix drugs if you promise to be a good little boy and stay out of trouble. Liar, you're just saying that so you can use me. Do you have any idea how much you've put me through this past year? And what did you teach me? Nothing. I'm going to quit this organization and join one of our rivals. Now. Learn to think before you talk. Your death won't be quick and painless if you betray us, Mori smiled darkly. I'm so bored. Why is the world such a boring place? Dazai began swinging his lanky legs back and forth. Dazai wasn't one of Mori's subordinates. He wasn't even in the mafia. Neither was he Mori's secret illegitimate child, nor an orphan he adopted. And he certainly wasn't a medical assistant. Not a single word or phrase could accurately describe their relationship. The closest approximation would be bound by a common destiny. More importantly, Dazai, Mori said with a sigh, you're the only one there when I inherited the previous boss's position. In other words, you are the sole witness to the final will and testament. Can't have you dying on me that easily. The common destiny that bound them together 1 year ago. Mori, the Port Mafia's boss's personal doctor, and Dazai, who had merely been there in there for care after a suicide attempt, conspired and carried out a secret plan, assassinating their leader. The man's final words have been nothing more than fabrication. It didn't work out like you planned, though, Dazai said with remarkable clarity. What do you mean? Choosing someone who would attempt suicide to be your accomplice was an excellent idea. But here we are, an entire year later, and I'm still alive. And that's why you have deep-stated fear still eating at you. For a brief, Mori felt his eyes had been pressed against his organs. Well, what are you talking about? You know what I'm talking about. You're afraid someone will find out you assassinated the previous boss. Dazai's expression was unchanging, which made reading his thoughts nigh impossible. His face was still frozen as the surface of a lake. What do you mean, didn't work out? Mori furrowed his brows as if he were scolding Dazai. Nothing fell short of expectations. You and I successfully carried out the mission 1 year ago. It wasn't without hardship. However, that's exactly why I never want to do something like that ever again. The mission isn't over yet, Dazai suggested with a cold glare. It only ends when everyone involved in the assassination and fabrication of the boss's final testament has been silenced permanently. Right? Mori's emotions hit him like a tidal wave. Dazai's gaze quietly penetrated Mori, as if his eyes could see inside the man's body. It was like some sort of medical device. To that end, I was the perfect accomplice. Nobody would suspect a thing. Once you became the boss, after I vouched for you, I could have simply killed myself for some unknown reason. The pair spent the next few moments staring at each other, in silence so heavy and obnoxious you might think it was a stare down between the Grim Reaper and a demon. A single word rang through Maury's head over and over again like an alarm. Miscalculation. You misjudged the situation, he told himself. You failed to pick out the optimal solution. You shouldn't have chosen this child to help you. Dazai is unpredictable. He can be sharp, but in a dark, twisted way. He's observant. He's cold and calculating with no equivalent, even in the Mafia, where the most evil reside. I'm kidding. I was making stuff up because I get a kick out of watching bitch shocks like you squirt. That's what I've been doing to keep myself entertained lately, as I said before quickly returning to his usual laid-back and focused expression. Mori quickly observed him. Dazai flashed brilliance for one moment, but the next they were gone. As soon as he settled to have figured out, he infused anyone by talking his bizarre, mainly his fascination with suicide. It never occurred to Mori before he became a leader, but something about Dazai brought a certain person to his mind. You remind me of someone, Mori said without a second thought. Who? Dazai asked curiously, but Mori didn't answer. At any rate, stop teasing your elders, he said, smiling faintly. Me? Permanently silence you? Don't be ridiculous. Besides, I could have done that a long time ago, if I had really wanted to. It's similar than breathing. How many times have I stopped you from killing yourself this year alone? It's quite taxing, you know. I even slammed a bomb under your chair like a protagonist in a movie. He couldn't let Dazai die, because if he did, the previous boss's supporters within the organization would most definitely turn on Mori and claim he was behind the predecessor's death. He'd already stopped 2 assassination attempts this year, which both had been planned out by the predecessor's supporters. Of course, the traitors were disposed of, but there's no telling how many of these anti-Mori factions remained within the Mafia, and hence he had to keep Dazai alive, and Mori found another reason that caused you just to do that. Dazai, if you really want, I can prepare a jug so you can end things comfortably, Mori claimed, just pulling out a sheet of paper and swiftly wrote something on it. Really? I needed a quick destination for me in return, though. He kept ready. Not difficult task, nothing dangerous, but you're the only one I can go to for help. Sounds fishy. Well, Dazai eyed for it. You know Suribachi City near the Yokohama settlement, correct? Mori asked, ignoring Dazai's remark. Lately, there have been rumors there about a certain individual who's been seen in that area. Would you like to go there and check the rumors are true? This is called the Silver Oracle. It's a declaration of authority, you could say. Show this to anyone in the Port Mafia, and I'll do whatever you say. Use it wisely. Dazai looked back before putting Mori and the sheet of paper being offered to him and asked, Who is this certain individual you want me to look for? Guess. I don't want to guess. Just guess. Dazai stared darkly at Mori before he slowly replied, There's no way the most powerful man in the Port Mafia would give a second thought to some town gossip. That says a lot about just how important this rumor is. Plus, you're giving me the Silver Oracle, which makes me think this individual isn't what's important. It's the rumor itself. You have to know the truth, and you have to quash the rumor at its sources. Its spread alone is harmful. You ask me to investigate instead of some professional or your top subordinate. There's only one person this individual could be, their previous boss, right? Exactly, Mori nodded heavily. There's some people who must never rise from the grave, and I personally confirmed his death. And he ran the most excruciating, He'd slit the previous boss's throat with a scalpel, and then covered the murder up by claiming the League of illness had brought him to his demise, and he needed to track a Takamochi to open his airway. Dazai had been only 14 years old and had witnessed this all firsthand. Someone must never rise from the grave, huh? Dazai muttered. A few moments passed. He heaved the roulette in his side and stood up. Looks like I really am the only you can go for help, he said, before snatching a piece of paper from Mori. You're gonna get me that drug then, okay? You better keep your word. Mori smiled and replied, This is your first job. Welcome to the Mafia. Dazai began briskly walking to the door. when he stopped all of a sudden. By the way, is this the person he said I reminded you of? Mori smiled faintly, a hint of melancholy in his expression. He gave his answer. Me. He had never needed an assistant, a secretary, a confidant, right-hand man of the highest caliber. But as a doctor, a trader, what he needed most was someone he could trust. He needed a subordinate with whom he could share everything, someone who could understand him, and he alone stood at the organizations leading his subordinates. It was an error on Mori's part to take in Dazai, but not all errors are bad. This stone he'd pick up, which he planned on disposing eventually, turned out to be a great diamond in the rough. Perhaps Mori was asking for too much, but someone who follows such a bloody path. But this was Dazai after all, so perhaps Dazai, Mori began, while still pondering the question. I may not be able to comprehend your answer, but nevertheless, I want to know, why do you want to die? Dazai seemed puzzled as he looked back at Mori, like he genuinely didn't understand the question. Then, his eyes full of youthful innocence, responded, Let me ask you something instead. Do you truly believe there's any value in living? Suribachi looked exactly like it had sounded. A city built within a crater created a massive explosion years prior. The original inhabitants perished with a mile diameter blast along with any notion of who each section belonged to. All that remained was a wasteland in the shape of Japanese Mora, a Suribachi. It wasn't long before the people arrived and decided to build their own city. They were society outcasts, or perhaps society had never acknowledged their existence to begin with. Suribachi bordered the Yokohama settlement, conflict zone, and anyone could take up residence there, regardless of legitimately. That drew people to create huts, build stairs, and even layer electronic wires. This site of explosion soon became a haven for those who scorned by prosperity and luxury. It was a great city for great people, and of course it was outside the authorities' radar, which naturally made it prime real estate for illegal organizations such as the Port Mafia. Thus I was heading down a path in Suribachi. Oh, so drinking metal painting solutions are extremely popular method of suicide abroad. Interesting. He was reading a book as he walked, his expression of serious. Thus I had never looked at someone with such solemnity. What's this? It's only popular because it's the easiest chemical for dirty painters to get their hands on. And it's not a quick and easy death. Anyone who drinks solution dies after spending hours in agony and their organs still inside of them? I'm so glad I didn't give that a try. Thus I lifted his head and glared at the poor mafia escort behind him. Hey, did you know that? Be careful next time you try to plan killing yourself. Hirotsu, the square answered, looking a small dog back in the corner. I will make sure to keep that in mind. A middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair and gentlemanly appearance. Hirotsu was a mafioso, thus I had chosen him for his knowledge of the area. He wasn't particularly enthusiastic with being the boy's escort and guide, thus I was just a 15-year-old kid. He wasn't even in the mafia, and yet he had the silver oracle. Everyone long-standing mafia member, including him and mafia members included, had to be careful around him. Not only was Dazai one of the two people who had witnessed the former boss's death, and now Mori had entrusted him with the top secret mission. There was clearly something more to all this. Hirotsu knew instantly that he had to treat Dazai with respect. These were instances only someone who had survived many years of the Port Mafia service. The two of them had left that morning to ask around if anyone had seen the Port Mafia's former boss. They wanted us to come up with the most popular tourist sites following rumors of their sources. A boy and a middle-aged man made for a bizarre investigation team, but nevertheless, Dazai's uncanny ability to weasel information out of people proved useful. He managed to get most of the sources, tell them what he wanted without even realizing it. Even the more stubborn individuals changed their tunes the moment Dazai gave them a peek of the weight of bills Mori had provided him with. For this very purpose, one of the information they could get their hands on. Dazai and her relatives started making their way back to headquarters. Dazai, please do not walk too far ahead of me, he said. I am your escort, but this nonetheless is a conflict zone. There's no telling what would happen. Conflict? Hiroshi nodded and continued. The Mafia is currently at war with three organizations. Tagssss, Heart, Security Services, and the first group, located here in Surabashi, that shows no sign of letting up. They are an extremely static group, nothing like an enemy that we've ever faced. They have no official name, but simply go by the sheep. This week alone, they have killed two of our squads. The unofficial leader is especially difficult to deal with. They say not even bullets work on him. Oh, no wonder I heard explosion things and fire coming from down here. That doesn't make much of a difference to me, though. They grumbled at one. All of a sudden, there was a beat coming from his pocket. His phone. It's Maury. Dazai placed his phone and said, hello? Yeah, we're done here. I learned a bunch of things. Huh? How? Who do you think I am? Anyways, let's get straight to the point. Dazai sounded like he couldn't care less. The previous boss was here. He came back to life with a bit of hair covered in black flames. What? Katie replied. There was a lot of witnesses, I guess, and the old man had a lot of regrets he couldn't let go of in this world. So like, let's crow into publicity. At any rate, I'll give you a detailed report as when I get back. All of a sudden, without any warning, something hit him. Dazai squarely in the torso, setting him flying through the air like a fly petal being caught in the gust of wind. He smashed through a zinc steel roof, causing the wood hut underneath to collapse, then rolled farther into Surabashi while demonstrating how well fencing the process. The sheep! Hiroshi shouted, slowly fading into the distance. Dazai! Dazai bounced down the hill until he went straight through a strip, taking the wall and dust the plywood instantly stopped. He found himself atop a civil building. However, something was on top of him. A shadowless male figure who had hit him moments ago. Ah, now this is rich. The figure groaned with laughter. A kid! The poor mafia is so hard up for lacking. They're hurling kids. They're hiring kids. There was a small framed boy around Dazai's head, dressed in dark green biker jacket. He looked like a crow amid the darkness of night. That hurt, you know. Dazai collapsed on his back, said emotionlessly. I hate pain. I'm gonna give you a choice, kid, the boy told him, hands in his pockets. Die now or die after giving me the information I want. What's it gonna be? I like those two choices. Both very tempting offers, Dazai replied unflinchingly, despite having been hit in the torso and knocked through several buildings. Okay, tell me now. The boy's biker jacket fell silent for a brief moment. And then Dazai looked at the boy in the biker jacket fell silent for a brief moment and looked down at Dazai and just realized he finally met a person's character. I thought you were just crying and run away. You're sure a surprisingly gutsy kid. You're good too. Yeah, everyone I fight always says that first. They immediately realize their mistake. I'm no ordinary brat like you. The boy clenched his fist. Now, talk. Tell me everything about this air havoc you're looking into. Then he stepped on Dazai's wounded hand, cracking the bones underneath under the sole of the shoes. Oh, air habaki. I see, air habaki. Dazai mumbled. He stared at his hand being crushed as if it was someone else's. So you do know? Nope. First I've ever heard of it. Dazai replied flatly. The boy grinned and then swiftly kicked Dazai. The ball of his foot struck Dazai's bones with an agonizing creak. Dazai moaned. Dazai moaned in pain. Alright then, the boy said. Want to go for the record? As long as someone's ever lasted about talking, it's 9 kicks. Dazai's face twisted in agony at him. You'll let me go if I talk? Yeah, I don't pick on weak claims. Dazai fell silent for a few moments, and he stared quietly at the boy above him. The serious expression. Okay, I'll talk. His voice heavy and tense, he said, You ought to drink more milk. You're really short. The boy kicked Dazai in the stomach once more, sending him rolling off the roof until he crashed into the fence below him. I didn't ask you, you little shit, the boy shouted. I'm 15. I'm still growing. I better put a curse on you. Being 15 as well, will continue to grow while you stay the same height. You're really starting to piss me off. The boy had already made over Dazai's head and kicked him in the face. Dazai's neck creaked. That hurt, you know. Dazai groaned with a slight chuckle, flushed down the corner of his mouth. Must have cut the inside of his lip, but thanks to you, I remember something. The sheep is one of Yuko's most influential support groups, and all its members are made up of teens and kids. I heard it got started after a bunch of kids created self-defense force trying to fight back against the gangs looting, and human trafficking. They're strictly defensive and non-violent, and yet there's hardly a soul that they're supposed to. The reason is simple. Anyone who steps onto their turf pays for it dearly. And the one who makes them pay is none other than the chief's leader himself. Now, that makes sense. You're the chief king. Chuuya Nakahara, growling over here. I'm no king, the boy. Chuuya Nakahara spat. I just happen to have something no one else does. Power. I'm simply fulfilling the responsibility I have. Chuuya paused and then looked down at Dazai and added, You sure know a lot about the sheep. Yeah, I couldn't avoid it to join them a while back. Obviously, I refused. Yeah, you made the right choice. I would have killed you within the first 5 minutes. I would have assassinated you before that. Dazai met Chuuya's glare. Chuuya then took a few steps back. Doesn't matter. Still gonna kick it his ass in the next 5 minutes regardless, so nothing changes. As long as little punks like you have anything useful for anyway. I'm gonna send your head in a box to this mafia sons of bitches. Consider it a declaration of war. You won't get that far. Dudley didn't move an inch. He simply stared quietly back at you. Don't you hear those footsteps? Footsteps? What footsteps? All of a sudden, she was surrounded by an angry shouting, Don't move! The numerous Port Mario soldiers had weapons aimed at him. Rifles, pistols, machine guns, machine pistols, shotguns. She looked around. Interesting. You're not more popular than I thought. I wasn't expecting anyone to come for your dumbass. Give it up, boy. Hiroshi demanded quietly from the back of the crowd. You're far too young to find out what your own orchids look like. Your threats don't scare me, old man. Guns don't work on me. I'm just gonna kick your ass and then go home without a scratch like I always do. Hiroshi calmly watched you. This brings back memories. Hiroshi. I had a similar phase when I was younger. I was rash and blue, thinking I was invincible. I thought Bruce Jinkapong could break anything in the world to my liking. A faint smirk played on his lips. Guns don't work on you, you say? Nothing special about that. Plenty of other skill users could say the same. And anyway, you've had enough warning. Now, it's time to repent. You'll have plenty of time to roll your own foolishness and ignorance in a pool of your own blood. Hiroto's shoes clicked as he stepped forth, his gaze more chilling than death itself. You've got powers too, huh? Chuuya's eyes sharply narrowed. I like balance in your eyes. You seem at least a little tougher than anyone else I thought. He said, Come. He readied himself for battle, his hands still in his pockets. Hiroto, you should probably set this one out. Dazai instantaneously continued. He can manipulate the gravity of anything he touches. Your skill is the best match. Gravity, you say. Hiroto replied as he removed his white gloves on his right hand. It was a very elegant action, as if he were royalty. Then, it's only fair that I am my skill, young chief. I can repel anything my hand touches. Haha, how kind of you to share, she said with a laugh. But don't expect me to go easy on you just because you're old. No need. Just nonchalantly tossed his glove at Chuuya. The moment Chuuya knocked it away, Hiroto was already in front of him, grabbing the boy by the collar his left hand and pulled Chuuya. Waiting resistance instead, he looked off the ground and spun to dodge Hiroto's approaching right hand, then launched a kick. Hiroto pulled his right hand back and hit the bottom of Chuuya's shoe with his palm. The gravity collided, creating a flash of light. Once again, Chuuya didn't resist the impact. He leaped backwards and landed on his feet with a feather-like just Man, I wish I could say I'm impressed, but I'm not feeling it. Your skills are worthless against mine, old fart. Chuuya manipulated the gravity of anything he touched. The earth maintained a consistent gravitational force of 1G, but Chuuya's ability allowed him to change the direction of force of the gravity to whatever he came into contact with. Meanwhile, Ratsu's skill could only repel a target in the opposite direction by touching with his right hand. There is clearly a superior skill up to Chuuya. Hiroto didn't too much as bat an eye. No need for you to concern yourself, young one. When I was your age, I too believed that I was the strongest skill always wore, and I was fortunate enough to realize my mistake before it cost me my life. This is why I pity you. She is near. You've piqued my interest. This time, Chuuya charged forward, his hands in his pocket. Through a roundhouse kick, Hiroto held out his right hand to stop it, until Chuuya changed the direction of his kick, aiming straight for Hiroto's neck. Hiroto promptly blocked his pistol, which groaned under the weight of the heavy kick. Moments later, Hiroto grabbed Chuuya's shoulder with his right hand. I got you now, Hiroto said. So what? Your skill won't work on me. I don't know about that, came a voice. Chuuya looked back, clearly surprised. Dazai was standing right behind him. He placed his hand on Chuuya's neck. Sorry, but gravity's no longer yours to control. As his skill activated, and he touched his target, he had the power to halt and nullify all skills. It was the ultimate anti-skill. No exceptions. I can't use my powers? Hiroto had his hand on Chuuya's chest. Now, time for you to pay your tuition. A white shock blasted Chuuya, spraying backwards with such a force it looked like he'd been hit by a truck. Dazai was almost simultaneously locked back as well, bouncing off the ground until he hit the plaster wall behind him. Dazai! Confusion briefly clouded Hiroto's face. He'd only been used to his skill on Chuuya. Why did Dazai get knocked back too? He got me, Dazai groaned as he clutched his stomach. He kicked me right before we crashed, and I let go of him. He used his skill to fly backwards. Chuuya landed sideways on the building against him and grinned. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Nothing like a little fireworks to get the party started. And with a shout, Chuuya kicked off the wall so quickly and powerfully that he destroyed it in the process. He was like a cannibal charging straight for Dazai and Hiroto. There was no way Hiroto could block the attack with only his right hand, even if he did. Dazai were to nullify Chuuya's skill. The force crash would tear him apart, but in the very next moment, black flames blasted everyone backwards. Huh? The black shockwave sent the entire group flying. Not just the people itself, building, poles, and even the trees are blown away too. Everything on the surface was torn apart, as if the air itself had suddenly lashed out. It was a black explosion. A massive explosion that had occurred near the center of Suribachi, but it was no ordinary blast. This was colossal fireball large enough to swallow the entire neighborhood. As his vision spun, and while he flew like a dead leaf in the wind, just when he saw it, glowing red eyes, the face wrinkled from decades of death and destruction, white hair, standing cloaked in black flames with the devil himself. The previous boss! Dudley's shout was swallowed by the flames, and then his consciousness faded to black.